Life.
Hey, bring it down to a 3. Anthony Lamb.
Oh, right. Should be live. There's going to be a
Woohoo!
slight delay, I assume. Let me pull up the chat.
Ba-dum, ba-dum,
Pocket.
ba-dum, ba-dum,
Game
ba-dum.
reviews.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Get that crap off the screen. That was the whole point of this.
Oh, I know. I just have to minimize it. All right. How'd you find my stream, but I can't even find my stream? Oh, good old.
This episode is not brought to you in part by Gatorade.
Right.
Hashtag on.
There we go. All right. Hi guys, welcome back to Back Pocket Game Reviews, and I'm joined today by Huggable Hipster.
Hi guys, how are you? My name is Huggable Hipster, and you guys can find me on @Huggable Hipster on YouTube, @Huggable Hipster on Twitter, and Huggable Hipster, or actually Huggable Hipstergram on Instagram.
Huggable Hipstergram. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So we're gonna. That was very punny. By the way, hi Throne Plane, Mark, Scotty Bem, Jonathan. All right. We're using Google Hangouts this time over Skype in hopes that it works a little better. And it seems to so far. Now.
So far, it's working like a champ.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some nice benefits to this over Skype. All right. So, we're going to start off talking about today's news. This will probably be more appealing to you than to me, but Tomb Raider is getting a Barbie doll. Like an actual Mattel Barbie doll.
I'm actually excited about this, but kind of surprised as well because I feel like it's selling out, but, you know, in a way. I mean, it can go either way with this because, honestly, if they're going to make a Barbie doll out of this, they might as well make a Barbie doll out of, like, the Mario Brothers.
But I would like to see a little more diversity in Barbie. Look, they've diversified Barbie in every job possible, but I would like to see like UFC Barbie. Yeah, just...
Are they gonna make the muscles look like Chris Redfield in Resident Evil, all steroided out? Or are they gonna make it look normalized? Like that's a question.
So I guess that would be who they're capturing if it was like Holly Holmes, all steroided out.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, the thing is that we all remember Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 5 compared to Resident Evil 1.
Yeah. I actually am not. So I don't hate Resident Evil. I have like a love-hate relationship with it. I don't like the originals. I love 4.
Not the original. Oh, you see, this is like my ride or die because whenever I talk Resident Evil, the first one, like people on my channel will tell you, the first Resident Evil, the very first one that came out that was remade, is the best one in my opinion.
So I don't like that control scheme.
Oh really? Okay. See, talk about that because that's one thing that people are saying that they don't like either.
So, if you like those games, do you have a PS1?
I do not. Xbox One.
All right. You don't have an original PlayStation?
I don't. I never had one before.
Do you have... You know how to do emulators?
Nope.
Alright,
nope,
I'm gonna have
never.
to help you out. There's a game called Parasite Eve. It has a very similar control scheme. I like the story of it, and I suffered through that control scheme. I don't like that way of aiming, where you're like aiming your whole body.
Oh.
So I haven't played the remakes.
Yeah, you see, the remakes are good, but you see, I have a bias since that was the very first like legit horror game I ever really played, and I played it when I was like 9 or 10 years old, I believe. So I love it for the story and more of like the ambiance that it gave because Mikami does such a great job with capturing the horror aspect that I really wasn't like it completely took me over by storm. But then again, people are saying that Resident Evil has its ups and downs, like you're saying with the controls being one of them.
Someone said Operation Raccoon City is the best. Nasty, I disagree with you. Uh,
Operation Raccoon was good, but I played it on the Wii and I thought that it wasn't really up to par. I thought they should have put it out for at least Xbox One as a DLC, possibly.
I do agree with the two people saying Resident Evil 4 is the best. That's my favorite one.
Resident Evil 4 was really good. One, two, three, I would say four, not five or six. Six.
See, I'm all right with 5. 5 did not bother me. I wouldn't say it was as good as 4, but I did like the story to 5. And I liked the co-op in it a lot.
You see, that's where I have the issue because originally Resident Evil was a what was it, a survival horror game, and originally they were supposed to make it multiplayer, but Mikami was like, let's go with this in a different direction, and that's why it was like a third person horror game. But
Mm.
they went with making it multiplayer for the 6-1, and I like the campaigns. I just don't like that it's multiplayer. It gives off such like a weird vibe for me.
So, and I could see that. I loved 7. I thought 7 was good.
Yes.
And I have not. So I've played Resident Evil Revelations, the first one. I
Hmm.
love that one. That's actually one of my favorite Resident Evil games. And I bought Resident Evil Revelations 2. I just haven't played it yet.
Number two is really good. It has really good gameplay and it's very fluid with everything that it does. Like at first, I think they made a patch for it, if I'm correct, but some of it was kind of laggy, and then they fixed it, and now it's a lot smoother.
So, and I bought it on the Switch. I bought both. So I originally played Revelations, the first one, on the 3DS.
Okay.
So I mean, that's what it first came out on and everything. My
Yeah.
3DS was like my favorite console for a while.
You
All
see,
right.
I was never one to own a 3DS. I was always one to own like the. I'm gonna sound old. The Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color.
Oh, you missed out. The 3DS was probably one of Nintendo's best consoles. 2DS, 3DS, whatever you want to refer to it as. So you said GameCube was your first system when we were talking
Yes.
earlier.
GameCube was the first one I ever played back in 2003.
Did you play Luigi's Mansion?
Which, yes, I have. I remember that one fondly. That was one of my favorites.
So they actually made a sequel to that on the 3DS.
Oh, really? Okay. You
That's
see, I
why I
didn't know
bought a
that.
3DS.
See, that's good. That's really, really good. Because I didn't know that they made a separate thing for that. I thought they just had that one. It was just gonna be one and done, and that's it.
Nope, they made a sequel. Supposedly there is a rumor one will be coming to the Switch.
Somebody needs to insert the meme where the guy's holding out my money. Like, just take my money.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is my favorite Nintendo franchise of all time, just because it's different, like very different.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I like the whole cute dark. Like when you can pull, we'll coin it this way. There's that Tim Burton dark, and when you're able to accomplish that, that's like good.
Yeah, I would say so because there are different levels of horror, and Tim Burton, it makes things a lot spookier and it makes things a lot more. How do I want to say this? Psychological, because he relies a lot more on psychological horror in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like even his less horroristic movies have like that element. Like I can sit down and watch Beetlejuice with my kids, and they won't find certain parts of it scary, but like I like the way that he does that.
Yeah.
What up, Sabre Prime? Sa-
What's up, dude?
Saber's like one of my go-to subscribers. All right, next topic up after the Tomb Raider Barbie doll, since we sidetracked on Resident Evil.
I know, right? I always tend to find a tangent. I just honestly, one last thing I want to say about the Barbie doll thing. I think it's a cool idea to get like girls and boys into that kind of thing, but I feel like you said, if they're gonna make it, a Barbie doll, they might as well make it for like other things.
I mean, let's be honest here. Barbie dolls are just bigger action figures where you can change the clothes.
Yeah, like if anybody remembers Polly Pockets, it's basically like that.
They had a boy version of Polly Pocket.
Yeah, that didn't go over so well.
I don't remember what it was called either, but I remember Micro Machines, which was also the same time.
Okay.
What up, Arrow Slayer? The Arrow and Saber are two of my mods,
Oh,
also.
nice. What's up, guys?
So we're gonna talk about what Phil Spencer said this week. So Phil Spencer made a huge point when he was speaking at I want I want to say it was whatever the big event just was.
Mhm.
It might have been a
Actually,
keynote.
I do have to say something really quickly. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
You're
but
fine.
my Wi-Fi is about to cut out. Can I please fix it really quickly before we continue? Because I do not want this to cut out.
You're fine.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second.
I'll interact in the chat for a minute here. Cesar, this is Huggable Hipster. She has a YouTube channel. You can also follow her on Twitter at Huggable Hipster. Those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, I interact with a lot of people on Twitter. That's if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's a good place to follow me. Sorry, I can't see what I look like right now, and that bothers me for some reason. I know that's a weird thing to complain about. Agent Ants, he has like this way he does horror. I wouldn't word it as scary. It's just more creepy. Like Coraline. There's like some or Nightmare Before Christmas. He's able to make creepy cute. Hmm. Castro, I don't think you're ever getting G.I. Joe back. I had a He-Man where you could damage his chest armor. I had a I have the Green Ranger. I still have it. It's upstairs. And they just brought these back recently as collector's items. But you could actually press the morpher on his belt, and his chest would pop open, and then his normal head would flip down, and the helmet version of him would pop up. It was the morphing figures.
All right, it is. Everything is good to go.
Alrighty. Alright, so Phil Spencer was talking at whatever game event was this week. Normally I'm on top of this stuff, but for some reason I can't remember what the event was. It wasn't a major event. But he was talking about how we need more inclusivity and less toxicity in the gaming community.
Oh, I would tend to agree with this because in the gaming community, you have, and I'm speaking as a biased member because being a female in the gaming community, it's very difficult to find um, a lot of guys who are going to be as inclusive. And there are a lot of people, like you're actually the first one who reached out to me to do a collab, which a lot of guys who I reach out to do certain collabs, they're like, oh, it's a female reaching out, oh my god. But there needs to be a little more inclusivity because whenever people, like especially younger gamers who are coming onto YouTube or Twitch or whatever streaming platform it is,
Mm-hmm.
they'll usually go with like the regular topics like, oh, you're a noob, you don't know anything. And it's like, well, maybe that kid has more knowledge in gaming and tech than the person who's calling him a noob.
Oh no, we're gonna go into some deep topics here. I really in no way feel any of these are gonna be light topics. So, but
No, and there's so much I could say on it, but like to put it in like a term that way I don't get too overly passionate about it because I tend to get very heated about these types of topics.
mhm.
Whenever like you go to like any of the conventions or anything like that, people already have found their niche that they want to hang out with for their gaming community, and in no way are they willing to. A lot of the time, it's very rare, but not a lot of the time do you see the bigger people branch out to the smaller creators or gamers or anything like that. And I feel like that kind of needs to change up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I went to a convention during the summer, and I actually had press badges,
Wow.
and
Okay.
I will agree with you because I had a couple of people come up to me who were relatively rude to me, saying, "You can't have your camera out here." And it's like, I'm actually taking a photo of a cosplayer right now. I'm not taking a photo of anything you have to do with. Because I posted all the photos of the cosplay like that I loved on my Instagram. And that's primarily what I did there, just because some people were relatively standoffish at the convention. I did meet one streamer who was larger than me, but she also wasn't really willing to talk to me. So,
And that's something I don't get. It's like I always hear it on YouTube is where, you know, the people who watch your channel are the ones who get you from point A to point stardom. Like, how can you not pay attention to the people who get you to where you are, or at least are interested in what you do, you know?
Well, I mean, the only reason why I knew she was a larger YouTuber than me, well, and actually, she wasn't a larger YouTuber than me. Her YouTube channel had a less of a following. Her Twitch channel had a bigger following than me.
Oh, okay. I understand.
And her daughter was dressed as Diva. And keep in mind, her daughter was like 3 and running
Uh-huh.
around in these boxes like a Diva mech. And I was like, oh, your kid's really cute. Can I take a picture to post up? And I was like, I'm a YouTuber. So I didn't want it to seem weird. Like, hey, can I take a picture of your kid? So I was like trying to explain like I'm not just some weirdo doing this, and she goes, "Yeah, I have a channel too. What's your channel name?" And I told her what it was, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm more on Twitch these days." And she told me how many like subscribers she had, and I was like, "Okay, I've got more subscribers than you do on Twitch on YouTube, but you can be rude. That's fine."
Yeah, the people think the number counts as everything, and it's just like then I could probably sense her through your interpretation of her personality because it's like, I don't understand why people are that catty whenever they are in that kind of atmosphere of creating content.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it was because she was a relatively attractive Asian woman, and she just kind of looked down on me. It was very odd, and I'm not used to that.
Oh yeah, I mean like that. Like I said, you don't see it a lot, but when it happens, it's quite. Like I said earlier, before we even started the stream, the force is strong.
Yeah. So Phil Spencer also commented, though, while he was there, that the lack of inclusivity and toxicity in the community was actually a big part of what kind of ruined the Xbox One launch. And he wasn't talking about gamers in general, he was talking about the team that was around Xbox at the time.
Okay, yeah, I only heard very briefly on this story, but I mean, you see, it kind of goes both ways because when you're talking about Xbox, this is a huge entity we're talking about,
Yes.
and it's going to be about being inclusive. They can't pander to everybody, and this is where I feel like if they're going to do one thing, it's not going to make somebody happy. If they're going to do another thing, it's not going to make another person happy. So, I, I
You
don't
can
know.
never make everyone happy.
Yeah,
It's not possible.
yeah.
I agree with you on that. Um, I will say, and so Phil Spencer also stated that Xbox One X kind of marks a new era for the Xbox, where it was essentially like this is all him now. If you look at the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, that was all Phil Spencer, and comparatively, I mean, sales and everything since Phil Spencer has taken over really do show a huge difference.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy though, because I feel like they're canceling. Leah, go upstairs, please. I feel like they're canceling a lot of the exclusives around him, and cause like Scalebound, he didn't want to cancel.
No, no, we wanted that to stay there, but it was getting controversial, so you just went with it.
Well, I mean, and so he had stated that they had a different vision, like Platinum Games had a different vision than what they had wanted that game to go in. So that's they had, and even Platinum even said it after they broke ways. They're like, this is truly creative differences on the project. So that was kind of where they left it.
You see,
Um,
I mean, like you said, normally, earlier in the stream, I'm normally on top of things like that. For me, whenever I hear topics like this, I briefly see it, and I'm just like, oh no, there's gonna be drama, and I skip through it because I don't want to be part of the drama. So this is like for me the first time hearing about this with the Xbox One X. For me, like all I ever hear is the great reviews or either the great dislikes that people are having with the One X, either saying that it has bugs or or they shouldn't have created the Xbox One X for some reason
uh, I
because of.
I think the One X is gorgeous. Like if you see it in 4K, like it is truly remarkable what it can output. I mean, I have the PS4 Pro and PSVR, and if you don't have 4K and you don't have the VR, I would probably never recommend the Pro to you.
Yeah, no, that's understandably so.
Not that the Pro is bad. I mean, the Pro has like a lot of ups, but all of its ups focus around 4K or VR.
Yes, exactly, and that's kind of a big deal coming in now, and I feel like a lot of consoles in the future are just going to be that.
Well, and even with so like if you look at the Xbox One X, I would still say it does a lot for 1080p that PlayStation 4 Pro never did until the Xbox One X did it, because super sampling was a thing on the Xbox One X at launch. If you don't know what super sampling is, it's where it takes this image and it combines the 4K textures and everything with the 1080p image, where you normally will hear of like checkerboarding more commonly, and
Right.
then makes a higher resolution 1080p image. So your 1080p image is going to have higher textures and shadows and particles.
You see, and I can't even imagine how that would even look because for me, like I'm so used to like the good old fashioned 720, 1080, and it's like whenever you get to the higher resolutions, I don't think the human brain can possibly just process how amazing it is.
Saber, I know you were looking forward to Scalebound. So Saber, as I said, is one of my more. He's like every video I will see Saber. I talk to him all the time. I even play games with him all the time. Um, I recently found out he's super into JRPGs, which I didn't know until recently.
What are those? I did not even know that was a thing.
JRPGs, Japanese role
No.
playing games.
Oh, Japanese role playing games. God, I
So
thought
like
it was
Final
something.
Fantasy stuff like that. But that's not so much Final Fantasy with him. He likes like Monster Hunter, and then Sword Art Online's the new one he's really excited about.
Okay, yes, I've heard of those. I thought it was like another technical term. My mind just went from like point A to point invisible.
When you work at GameStop for as long as I do, you wind up with some really crazy acronyms that you can spout off really fast.
Yeah, they see, I used to work at a record store, and then right across from me was GameStop, and then you'd hear like all the lingo just going, and I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So
So,
next up on the topic list here, we got loot boxes. We're gonna talk about
oh
loot
God,
boxes. So
I even about this in my tea talk today, but I want to hear what you have to say first about the loot boxes.
specifically, we're going to talk about apparently they want them to be regulated like gambling, like the how you were talking about the Hawaii 21 and up. By the way, thank you, Scott. I don't know if I said that already or not. But I disagree with it.
I, I do too. Like the thing is that if you're going to have see, say that again. They want to regulate it for what? They want to for against the law for it to be gambling loot boxes, or what's the specific about it that is making this a hot topic, basically?
So a lot of people spend a lot of money on loot boxes, and I understand consumer outrage, as we all know. That's like a big part of my channel. I'm very pro-consumer, and I don't like anti-consumer policies. My big issue here is you can't word this as gambling, because gambling, if I lose, I get nothing. It's not
Yeah,
a you get nothing. This is more like a gotcha toy where it's a you don't know what you might get out of it. You're still getting something. It could be what you want, it might not be what you want, but you don't walk away empty-handed.
you see, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of a Russian roulette for the player in a way, but I feel like that would be kind of interesting overall. Like at least you get something, but if it's for something that you're paying a high amount of money for, so let's say you get like an Overwatch loot box or something like that, and it's kind of like a gamble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would honestly say that would be a cool thing to do. It might not be something that you want, or maybe it's something you need down the line
Well, I mean,
for
that's
what.
how they already work. So, like with Overwatch, if I buy, let's say I spend $20 on loot boxes,
Mhm.
which I've done this on numerous occasions. But let's say I spend $20 on loot boxes. I get 5 items out of those loot boxes.
Yeah.
It might not be one of the items I want. I'm not walking away though with here you got nothing, which is that's how gambling works.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, it's such like I'm on the fence about it because I agree and I disagree at the same time because loot boxes, like you said, it could have everything you want, it could have nothing you want, it could have some of the things that you want, but at the same time, you like any loot box, you're not walking away from nothing. And I feel like if they're doing something where you walk away with nothing, then that's unfair for the player. But if
Right,
you're
but
just walking,
no loot box has done that yet. It's just you don't know what your chances are or odds are to get X rare item. There's not been a loot box where you get nothing.
yeah, exactly. And it's I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it because I like the idea, but I don't like it at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, so I'll say it this way. It it appeals similar to how gambling does, where you get that reward, like, oh, I got something really rare, and I'm super
Yeah.
excited. So I understand where you're getting that reaction. But at the same time, you should have enough self control to be able to say no. And I'd say the same thing about gambling as well, though.
Yeah. That see, I'm still on the fence about it. I don't think how many other ways like you word it or anybody could word it. I feel like you're taking your chances, yes, no matter what. But with loot boxes, it gives a person the satisfaction that if they do win that, then they feel like a champion and they get that ego boost that goes through the roof. So that's a cool part for a lot of people. But in any case, I don't know. I think I might be for it, honestly. If they're going to put something that is absolutely amazing that the person could win out of it, then I mean that would be pretty cool.
Well, and I mean, I'll say it like this too. So again, it depends on the loot boxes. I use Overwatch because Overwatch is the loot boxes I'm the most okay with.
Mm.
There are loot boxes I disagree with, and loot boxes I personally wouldn't spend my own money on. Like when we were talking about EA and Battlefront 2 was coming out, there were loot boxes in there that weren't cosmetic. Like if I get a loot box in Overwatch, it's a skin. It does nothing for me in game except for give my character a new outfit. But
Yeah.
like in Battlefront, it might give your gun a cooldown to where you could get this or this range on this extends. I don't agree with those types of loot boxes.
Yeah, the ones for pure cosmetic of enhancement or anything like that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot this thing down, but I'm gonna have cool hair while I do it. Like,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and I mean, so they're not necessary to the game. They're not impacting the way your game plays. And the other thing I like that Overwatch did, and this is a huge part of the reason why I'm so okay to buy loot boxes in that game, I don't
Mhm.
pay for DLC. I don't have to get like a season pass. I get all of the maps. I get all of the new characters. I'm just paying for skins.
You see, that's oh yeah, no, then don't pay for the skins though. That's a thing. Like, no, if you're paying for the skins purely, unless it's an armor upgrade. If you're getting an armor
No,
upgrade,
see,
then
there's
that's
no benefit. I'm literally buying skins to support the game. But they're
yeah.
giving you the maps for free. Most games would charge you for the maps. Most games would
Yeah.
charge you for the new characters. They're not.
Oh yeah. See, and that's where I have the issue. It's like they're giving you something completely useless but useful at the same time. It's such
I'm
a con.
I'm cool with buying a new dress for my virtual doll. Okay.
That's basically what it is. Playing dressed up with something virtual.
Yeah, and I mean, and don't get me wrong. Like, I get where like if you look at like NBA 2K, if you create a character in that game,
Mhm.
and that's the huge mode that everyone likes to play is to create a character in that.
Yeah.
Um, But if you create a character in that and you want to change your character's haircut, you have to pay real world money to change your character's haircut.
Yep.
So that's
That's
not a loot box, but that's a bad use of microtransactions.
yeah, and it's the same thing with The Sims too. I mean, look how much you have to pay for anything that comes out of The Sims.
Yeah, or even like right now, Konami. I don't know if you read about Metal Gear Solid Survive at all. Bless you. Um, but Konami, if you want to have two save slots for characters in Metal Gear Survive, you have to pay $10 to get the second save slot.
Yes, I remember reading about this for a tea talk that I did. It was absurd to me. I don't know why that even was a thing.
Well, and so I don't feel you can have both. Like you can do like pay for a season pass, and
Mhm.
that's fine. If you want to charge for a season pass up front for all the maps or whatnot, like Rainbow Six charges $30 every year, and you get all the new operators that come out that year.
Yeah, exactly.
There's loot boxes in it too, but you get them in the same way in game. It's just like in Overwatch, you earn them in game as well. You're just
Yeah.
buying to get them at a faster rate.
Exactly. And I think that's what they also did with The Evil Within, because I remember it wasn't exactly loot boxes, but they gave out several season passes
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, oh, you get the chance to get this DLC for this low price. And I remember getting the season pass for like $23 and they said, okay, the price of the Executioner DLC and the assignment has been reduced to $4.99 and $2.33. I'm like, yes, give me that all day.
Right, and I mean, but like there's certain games like I don't understand when a single player game adds a loot box. Like that's a really hard pill for me to swallow.
Yeah.
Um, Especially because like if I were talking about like my most memorable single player experiences this generation, if you look at something like The Witcher 3, and The Witcher 3 is always going to be like one of my highest moments in gaming, I paid $30 for that season pass, and it probably added like a whole another 80 hours to that game.
See, that's good. Whenever they add something that's beneficial for the gameplay like that, that's always a good thing.
Well, I mean, so they added Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone are the two stories that were added to The Witcher 3 for the season pass. And I mean, they're long. Like they're really long.
Really? You see, I have people are gonna hate me for this, but I have not played Witcher yet. I've seen it on playthroughs, and I've
You're
seen the
missing out.
maps.
You're missing out.
I need to play it. I've seen it so much. I've seen a playthrough, and the map is absolutely gorgeous.
Uh the game is probably one of the best written games and probably one of the best but when you buy it, buy the complete edition. Get the one that comes with all the DLC. You've got like a 160-hour game right there.
That's gonna be like a week of an adventure right there. Just I gotta
A
just stock up
week.
on doing videos.
I
A
think it
week.
took me a week to beat the main game.
Oh, okay. You see, the thing is that like for me, if I can really sit down and like push out a game in like an hour, I will do that because I stay so focused on a game. Like it took me about an hour and a half to complete the first Outlast game when that came out.
See, I've never played Outlast.
You're the one who's missing out. That game is amazing.
I'm not a huge horror game fan.
It's
And I shouldn't say that I'm not a fan. It's just it takes a lot to actually startle me.
okay. I can understand that because as gamers we've become desensitized to the whole horror genre. So
Well, I mean, even with like movies, like it takes a lot before like I'm really like startled, and it's really odd things. It's so the greatest game, if we want to talk about like what really is able to startle me, is
mhm.
either Resident Evil 7 in VR. In VR,
Okay.
that game is terrifying.
You see, I've yet to play that in VR, and that's a bucket list of mine.
So VR definitely excels in the horror space because jump scares don't normally get me. Like I'm good with jump scares. In VR,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, because it's surrounding you, and that's the big difference. I feel like that would scare just the ever-living sheep out of me. Like that would just be so bad.
So
And
it,
I
and
feel like,
my wife hasn't tried VR yet.
oh
Um,
no,
and it's not just that it's surrounding you. Like it's really hard to explain this, but like because if you haven't tried it, I can't like
no,
convey this to you.
no, I've tried VR, and that's like that's a new level of horror because there was a sample horror game that I played on the iPhone, and I was able to attach it through, and I was like, okay, this isn't gonna be so bad. I listen, I slept with the nightlight on. I was saying my Hail Marys. It was not a big deal, okay?
All right, so I've tried a couple of the phone VRs. I will tell you the actual gaming VR headsets, like when we talk like PSVR, Oculus,
Yeah.
if you ever play a horror game on those, it is so incredibly immersive. Like you feel like you are there.
You see, I love that. That's something that's special.
And see, that's the thing with like the phone is like when people are always like, "Yeah, I've tried the phone VR, it's all right." It's like, yeah, you don't get this whole immersive experience that you get with like the full out headsets.
You see, I can picture that too because it's like when you were saying that you played Resident Evil 7 with the VR, and I've did like one story mode with the phone VR, and sometimes like the phone would kind of fall out of the side
Yeah.
area, and I feel as if what was it? I think they're going to be making Silent Hill for VR,
Hmm.
and I'm like, why has that not scared anybody to make that? Because Silent Hill was a scary game enough. I don't think we need it on VR.
So, if 'cause you said you lived in New York, if the
Yeah.
PlayStation experience comes through New York, go out of your way to go to it because they will have demo VRs there.
You see, that's yeah, because I know that ComCon is coming to New York October, so that's something that I'm definitely going to be checking out if they have the PlayStation experience there.
I mean, I love my PSVR. It's the cheapest of the headsets. One of my buddies has HTC Vive, and I know there's if I put on his Vive, yeah, there is a huge difference. But for the
Really?
for the price, PSVR is incredible.
That might be something I might have to get. And you know what? I trust more so word of mouth whenever I talk to other gamers because you know we've been around gaming equipment. We know what we're talking about. So I might have to take your just word of mouth for that.
Red Logic was saying one of my subscribers was saying he avoids horror games so much, but he was talking about how he played Bendy in the Ink Machine, and that was one of his best streams. Bendy's really cool. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, Bendy's a really great game.
Um, but with VR, so the hardest sell for it is if you haven't tried it, like an actual headset. Like I'm sitting here telling you how incredible it is, and you've tried this VR experience. It was all right because it wasn't one of those headsets.
Yeah, exactly. Like I tried the off-brand version.
But and so that's the other hard sell is like most of the times, like there's not a lot of full game experiences that are on it. Most of them are going to be indie style games, but if you like stuff like Outlast, you're probably going to like all your experiences on PSVR.
And that makes me even more excited to try it because for me, I'm just a horror game junkie. For all the things I've played on there, I would love to see The Evil Within come to a VR headset. That would be amazing.
So I don't know if you've ever played Until Dawn.
Yes, yes.
So they have the prequel to that on there now, and it's VR exclusive.
I'm gonna drain my bank account so much. All right, I think I'm gonna have to give in because that needs. And also, I've seen so many YouTubers play VRs on their channel exclusively, so that might make for my very first legitimate jump scare ever because I normally don't get scared. Like I'm so desensitized to all of the horror games.
So there's another Until Dawn game, and it's like a shooter, but you're on like a carnival ride,
Yeah.
and that game literally just lives off of jump scares. That startled me a couple times at first. I've gotten a little better with handling them in that game now.
See, those weren't as bad as just funny for me because there were certain jump scares. The way that they jumped out, I just laughed. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that's because you didn't have the headset on.
Okay, quite possibly.
I'm telling you, it is just it's because everything's surrounding you. Like if I turn my head, I'm not seeing anything other than what's around me, and you're
Well,
there.
yeah. Instead of it being 2D, it's completely 3D and surrounded. I think that's a big selling point. So, I mean, okay, yeah, Outlast in that kind of environment or Until Dawn in that kind of environment, I can understand why anybody would be scared.
Yeah, yeah, it does a good job at it. All right, let's get to the second topic now that I segued off on VR here. Um,
We're
so
just like the masters of tangents right now.
I easily get sidetracked. I have really bad ADHD. So the Rhode Island representative wants to impose a tax on violent video games.
Oh, God. Oh, this again. It's
Yeah.
really, 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 really.
My question is how does because like don't get me wrong, like I get it. There's a luxury tax on cigarettes. There's a luxury tax on alcohol, but
Yeah.
imposing a tax on violent video games doesn't fix a problem.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? I would beg to differ, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. What problem was there even to begin with? Like, the thing is that so many people, they're like, oh, violent video games are harming our children, and we have to protect it. It's just like, no, 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 no. If you give a 5-year old a really bad horror game, just don't do that. It's just called good parenting. But if you're going to give your child a video game, explain it to them that these things aren't real. You're not supposed to do these things IRL.
Yeah, I mean, like my son mostly plays Nintendo games. On occasion, he'll like sit here and watch me play Rainbow Six, or maybe he'll play Halo with me. But
Okay.
I'm not sitting here like, oh, here you go. Here's Grand Theft Auto. Go have fun by yourself.
Oh God, no. Oh my God.
And I think it's funny. It's like when you talk about like there's not really a problem. You're right. There's not. I mean, violent movies have been around forever. So who's explaining murders then before movies and books?
And also, we have to think about the fact that all of us were subjected to the hidden messages that were in SpongeBob and in Disney movies.
Well, and I mean, if you look at human nature, like humans are naturally violent.
Yeah, sad to say, but true.
I mean, it's throughout history. It used to be socially acceptable for, oh, my neighbor insulted me. I'm going to go club his head in.
Yes, oh, you stole my sheep. Oh, off with your hand.
Well, and I noticed a lot of people, like, since they started the whole violent video game witch hunt again, a lot of people will be like, oh, this is just Republicans trying to get it off guns. And it's really interesting because Democrats were actually the first ones to go after violent video games, and people just don't get it. Each side's going to just pick something to blame.
I feel like at this point, people are just bored and they want to find a reason to start drama.
Yeah.
So at cost, they're going to say, "Oh, do you know what? You stole my parachute. I'm gonna start a war about this. You know that parachute law? Yeah, well, that's gonna be a thing now. Okay." No.
Well, and I mean, it's funny. It's like you have the sides that are blaming the gun. Okay, the gun didn't shoot anyone. The person shooting the gun was the one who shot the person, or the 17 school kids. And it is sad, and I'm not going to dive too much into this guy, but there was some stuff that came out recently that I'm going to be talking about in a video. Um, Honestly, he should not have been allowed to have obtained a gun.
No.
And there were already laws in place that should have prevented him from obtaining a gun.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
that's the part too, is like you look at like the Texas shootings. There was a church shooting in Texas, and you can look at that, and the guy had domestic violence on his background. Legally, he was not allowed to obtain a gun.
Yep, exactly. And this guy on his medical background had so many mental issues and medications that he was on.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even have been allowed to leave the hospital, let alone go shopping for said gun.
Well, and I mean,
It's
so that's the other part where you have the bigger problem is everyone's like, oh well, let the government control the guns, and it's like the government's the people failing you right now.
yeah.
Had they had, I mean, literally the entire institution. I mean, the schools, the social services got involved with this kid. There is so much stuff that failed him. And the part that I'm actually going to be talking about in that video is he was actually autistic.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, my son's autistic. That's a very personal issue for me. And he should not have ever been, after his parent died, his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, social services was involved when he was younger. Um, he was on a lot of medications for ADHD, depression, autism. He was under a lot of different mood control stuff. When his mother died in November, do you think he was still taking those on his own?
Most likely.
I mean, I don't think he was taking any of that medication at that point. When his parent died, I think that was.
I mean, for me, okay, I'm gonna say this as someone who has a degree in psychology. Whenever someone has that happen to them as a traumatic experience or whatever it may be, they have to be by law supervised by someone. So he was probably under, I think, legal age even at that point, if I remember correctly. So
He's 19 now.
He's 19 now. So when his parent died, he was probably 17 or 18 years old.
He was
So
19
he would have.
because his
Okay,
parent
yeah.
died like 2 months before the shooting.
Okay, so yeah, you're probably right. Since he was of legal age, he probably would have consented not to take medication anymore. But if he were under 17, he would have still had to take the medication.
But and here's because even still, so like I agree. Yeah, I by all means I don't think he was taking that anymore since he was legally on his own. But if social services had been involved with him before because he was depressed and cutting himself while on Snapchat, he was cutting himself saying he wanted to buy a gun. And that's when social services first got involved when he was 16.
Yes.
His mom said, we're taking proper precautions. Well, that mom passed away. The school suspended him. How did no one know to intervene?
Yeah. And that's a big kick to the face, isn't it? Because it's like it sounds like nobody cares, but when in reality, like I feel like people just didn't care. Like that's the big thing.
Right, but now they care now that he committed this horrendous crime, and it's like intervention literally could have prevented all this if it would have been documented properly on his background,
Yes.
which social services should have done when they got involved. He wouldn't have been allowed to own a gun.
No, not at all, because they would have put him into protective services. They would have kept him overnight at the hospital. They would have done everything else. But I feel like, and this is where my bias comes in, oversaturation in hospitals for the mentally ill is really high. And I feel like either they didn't have enough room or they didn't want to deal with it.
And never mind gaming, this is Huggable Hipster.
Hola. Hello.
So, and it's so odd to think though that just no one ever got themselves involved with this. I mean, if anyone would have just reached out, this whole situation could have been stopped. But instead, we're not, and we're not going to blame, because I wanted to blame the parents originally, but
Yeah, but there's no parent to blame.
yeah. And I mean, honestly, when you look at the entire incident, it's like a series of unfortunate events.
In a way, but those kids were smart enough to get their self out of a kerfuffle. This kid is just wanting to put the blame on other people and hurt himself and others in the process.
Well, and the hardest part here too is like he played Call of Duty. Like that's where they're linking this all at. And most psychological studies actually show that mass shooters or kids in these situations play less video games than the average kid.
Yeah.
So it's just odd to see where the blame goes. And like I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. If you feel that you need a gun to protect yourself from whatever it is, you should be allowed to own one, as long as you do not have some kind of mental issue in your background.
Yeah. And that's the main thing, because I feel like they're just trying to, by they, I mean politicians, are trying to take the easy way out and look at some sort of scapegoat for the entire thing. And they're like, oh, video games. Yes, we're going to put it on that because we know that's an easy target. So let's put a tax on that, make everything a little bit more simple for people so we can keep everybody under lock and key. Like, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, and so, and I was, so I'm sure you probably saw the argument on Twitter where I got very involved in a pro-gun debate. Um, I'm not against us being more restrictive on who's able to get a gun, in the sense of let's do more mental background testing, but I don't think it should be done at the point of you buying a gun. I think it should be done throughout your entire school career. You should be getting mentally evaluated.
Yeah, I mean that's a given. I mean, whenever you are in high school, like I remember growing up, they always gave you like evaluations. You always has to take like at least a once a year evaluation to do like a mental and health checkup and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is done now very few and far between, to the point of almost non-existent, where I don't think the school system really values the health of the child, more or less the numbers and test scores and everything that panders to how far they rank up in the system.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I think the part that really sucks is you see so many politicians that like to bend. I'm very outspoken about my political views. I'm extremely libertarian. Most people don't understand that I'm pretty much a conservative. There's certain views that I'm not necessarily conservative on.
Yeah.
Um, and it's very odd, because the more laws that we give, the more people go out of their way to break them.
Yeah, it's also the society we're living in today too, because I feel like everybody just wants to have a taste of being a rebel, and not in like the Hollywood fashion sense, but more or less in the I'm going to try to belong with everyone because I feel very lonely and isolated sense. So I feel like
Right.
this kid was trying to get that sense of uh, his own twisted way of accomplishing something, which he managed to get his 15 minutes of fame. Granted that. But for what cost? Like, he may have been on drugs, he may have been on whatever it was at the time, but, like one bad egg is now ruining it for the rest of people. It's.
Well, and I mean, there's been so many different incidents, and that's the thing too. Like, no one who commits these crimes is identical. Like, there's no like one key to why it happened.
No.
Except for most of them have some serious craziness. Hi,
And have
Baroku. So, and I think it's sad because like you'll hear a lot of confusion, and both sides bend a lot of things that they say to get you to side with them. Like the AR-15 is an assault weapon. It's not.
it's actually a military grade weapon that can actually be automatic if need be.
Well, so the AR-15 cannot be automatic.
Oh, okay, see, that's what I was told, that the AR-15 could become an automatic.
Well, the news loves to state that. So here's the thing: the AR-15 is built on what's called the M4 platform. The M4 is the gun the military uses. The AR-15 is interchangeable, so it's very easy to swap pieces in and out. But what defines an assault rifle, an assault weapon, is that it has what's called adjustable fire. So I can have it as single shot, I can have it as burst fire, or I can have it as fully auto. AR-15 single shot. It's actually considered a carbine, not a rifle.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big difference.
That's yeah. That's not. I can't even wrap my mind around that, honestly.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like I have an AR-15. I love my AR-15. It's my toy gun, or my home defense gun would be the actual best word for it.
Yeah.
But it's the one I enjoy to take to the range the most. Like I enjoy shooting that. But if I were to sit there, because the other thing that the news really likes to do is they like to mince the words between semi-automatic and automatic, and sometimes you'll hear them say fully semi-automatic.
Yeah, I've heard that thrown around a lot.
So do you know what semi-automatic is?
No, I'm not that much of a gun person, so I'm not well versed.
All right, so this is their biggest twist that they like to do. The AR-15 and a pistol are all semi-automatic. So like your standard pistol, which I actually have mine on me because I
Oh,
always have mine on my side. But the standard, it just means that semi-automatic means it shoots every time you pull the trigger. That's it.
oh, okay.
There's no, oh, I hold it down and it shoots. So when they say, oh, it's fully semi-automatic, no, you're playing now on the words of fully automatic and automatic. Because you'll run into a lot of people, like if you ask them on the street, and they'll be like, oh, well, I don't believe in semi-automatic weapons. We shouldn't have that. And it's like, everything is semi-automatic.
Oh God, yeah. So they're mixing up the definitions that way they can try to scare people.
Yes, it is a giant scare. But I mean, same thing with violent video games. When you're talking about a violent video game to someone who knows nothing about video games, it sounds terrifying.
Yeah, because they have no knowledge of what they're talking about, and so they're naive and they'll believe what the media says.
So, and that's because I actually also have a gun channel.
Oh,
um,
okay.
I've done. I actually took a stun gun on that channel because I was talking about how non-lethal forms of um, self-defense aren't always effective. I took the highest level of stun gun you as a person can buy. It didn't even put me on the ground.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah, that can be a little terrifying. Thank you, Kirik, by the way. But I think it's really funny to watch how both sides twist their words and play on people not knowing what they're talking about.
yeah, that happens a lot in the media nowadays because people will talk about something and they'll think, "Oh, I'm an expert in this." And I always like to say, "Just shut up and sing," meaning just be, humble and talk about what you're well versed in. Don't talk about something that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. I mean, it's like, so if you look at my hobbies, my channel is gaming. I've done a disc golf video because I love disc golf. And I've talked about like autism. A lot of the stuff I do is all stuff that I know and I like and I enjoy as a hobby.
Yeah,
Gaming is my most knowledge topic, so that's why my gaming channel is probably my, big channel.
yeah.
But um, I don't have a makeup channel. I'm not over here creating a singing channel. I'm not. That's not my knowledge base.
Yeah. And yeah, and exactly. And it's like if you improve upon your knowledge base and then you like sort of dip into the things you're not well versed in,
Mhm.
that's still like better than saying like, "Oh, I absolutely know absolutely everything about the entire world and all its glories."
Well, and I mean, my big thing on like my channel is before I talk about any topic, like I have my notes right here for our entire stream. Um, every one of these corresponds to an article because I use what's called Appy Gamer on my phone, and
Oh, okay.
it's like an RSS feed. So it lets me pull in from IGN. I can sort by stuff that interests me, so like PlayStation, Xbox, and it pulls all my news, and then I star them, and then at the end of the week, I go through and I create what I'm going to talk about on this weekend show now.
Nice.
But I've always used Appy Gamer or like where I'll watch another YouTuber even talk. But before I ever comment on it, I make sure I do my research on it, even though I already know about gaming.
Exactly, and that's the same thing I do for my TikTok. Is I never heard of Appy Gamer before. I'll just search into Google like top gaming stories or something like that, and I'll like do my research like a few days beforehand and have all the topics like starred on my website that I wanted to go to, and it's just like you list them off and off. But yeah, being well versed in your topic is crucial, especially like if you're doing news topics like this.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, my channel started off as a lot of game reviews, and now it's mostly gaming news.
Yeah.
So
See, and that's cool. Like you finally like find a niche that you're comfortable in, and it just like kind of dwindles down. And not many people know this, but whenever I first started my gaming channel, I wanted to combine gaming and makeup and try to do makeup things like inspired by gaming pieces. And I was like, don't confuse your viewers. And I slowly got dwindled down to just horror games and Tea Talks, which is just gaming news, YouTube news, and psychological analyses of video game characters.
yeah, thank you, Vartan. I've actually tried to get my wife because she does the whole beauty channel thing. I tried to get her back. She used to like bounce ideas off me, and she'd ask, "What do you think would help people come to my channel?" And I was like, "This is right when Overwatch had just come out. I was like, you should do Overwatch themed makeup styles."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she never wound up doing it because she thinks I'm insane when it comes to makeup.
Good idea though, like because you can do like the whole orange and blue and silver tone. That's so many ideas.
There's actually a video on her channel, two videos. There's one where I do her makeup, and there's one where she does my makeup.
I saw that one.
Yeah, I have some really good eyelashes though.
I let on fleek though.
Right? We segued again. This is gonna be a long stream. I think I did the same thing with DM Gaming as well when me and him were doing the stream.
Yeah, I saw that entire one, and I was just like so many tangents, but it's so funny.
I break off topic really easy. That's why most of my videos are just like me talking to the camera because it's like if it's just me, I won't get off topic. But
Yep.
I like doing streams too, and when I game stream, I sometimes talk about crazy topics.
It's like how many stripes do bumblebees have? Well, it varies, and then you got a potato, and oh, look at that tripod.
All right, so next topic, and actually we're gonna kind of talk about this first because you said that you have not picked up a Switch yet,
No, I'm not.
but
I
you're
need-
excited to get a Switch.
Yes, I am. I'm probably gonna be getting one towards the end of this year.
Vegeta the best. Are you guys really having a comment about who's the best DBZ character in the comments right now? Piccolo, by the way. It's Piccolo. So what games are you most excited for on the Switch?
I want to see how Resident Evil Revelations 2 plays on there. I really am looking forward to that one.
So Resident Evil Revelations 1 plays really well.
Okay.
I haven't touched 2 yet, though.
2, I'm really looking for because they just came out with the remastered version on Xbox One, and they came out with their remastered version for the Switch, and I'm really looking to see how the graphics are more, and most importantly, how the entire movement of the game is, like how it flows, and just that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
So I'll say this: the Switch will never have the most impressive graphics, but its graphics will surprise you for what it is.
Interesting. Yeah, for being like a handheld console and something that you can also play on the TV, it surprises me that there's such an amazing response to it. I think it's just the versatility that people like the most, though.
So, and that's always the hard part is like when I'm talking to people, people always be like, "Oh, how's Skyrim on it?" It's like it's better than the PS3 version, but worse than the Xbox One version.
That's not good though. But like, okay, wouldn't it be better to have it like on a bigger? See, for me, I think a bigger screen being played for Skyrim would be better than having it on that smallish screen.
Yeah, but I can have it on the small screen, then dock it. It's fine on both. I will say the Pro controller is definitely the game changer, though. If you pick
Oh,
up a Nintendo Switch, get the Pro controller.
okay, okay. Point to note taken because I've seen a lot of people differ between those opinions, saying that you don't need the Pro Switch, but then you need the Pro
The
Switch.
Switch, so the Joy-Cons are nice. They're not bad. Overall, they are very nice. But certain games like Skyrim, whereas I like to play as an archer, you need to be very precise in your controls, and the Pro
Yeah.
controller is very precise for the Joy-Cons are not.
Okay, that would make sense. Yeah, because I feel like there are certain controllers, even when you're doing, keep in mind since I haven't played, what is it, PS4, they're saying that the controls on that are more precise than some of the older Xbox version controllers.
On which one?
On the PS4 versus the Xbox 360, because I used to play on Xbox 360 and then switched to Xbox One, and they're saying like they're comparing controllers for some reason. I was like, was there a difference?
All right, so I have both. I have Xbox One. I have an Xbox One S, a PS4 Pro. The only reason why I don't have the Xbox One X is I couldn't justify the jump, not for $500.
Oh God. Okay.
Especially, well, I already had the PS4 Pro,
Yeah.
and I bought the PS4 Pro because it lets me stream directly to YouTube. And I had a 4K TV, so I was like, let's get the Pro. Then I eventually wound up getting VR, so the Pro worked out for me.
Yeah.
I
And
I will take the Xbox One controller over the PS4 controller any day.
you're coming over to the dark side, aren't you?
I've
Very happy with
so I've been accused of being an Xbox fanboy numerous times. I'm very I lean more towards Xbox than I do PS4, but
yeah,
I've been that way since the original Xbox.
yeah, and that's the game changer because you saw the evolution of it, and that's the changing point. Because whenever you see the evolution from like the very first Xbox, and then you're seeing the Xbox One now, it's like they've come so far and they're doing something so incredibly amazing with each console that they make.
Scott actually said I have Best Buy in my living room, which is kind of true. So every generation of console, I always buy the Xbox first. That's my prioritized console.
Okay. See, and that's cool because for me, honestly, if I'm going to buy any console and stick to it, it's going to be either trying to soup up an old console that I have because I tried souping up the GameCube with other kinds of software and everything
Mm-hmm.
and it just went kaput. But then I tried putting like different pieces of hardware to like attachments and stuff like that and patches for the Xbox and worked beautifully. So I will always stick with Xbox.
I say I love my Xbox One. I've been adjusting because I want to get back to streaming more here once everything gets back to normal on my channel. But I've been trying to adjust to the PS4 controller more.
Oh, okay. Okay. You see that's something that I need to finally commit to and buy because everybody, including you, has been saying the PS4 is the way to go besides Xbox.
I would tell you Xbox is still better. I'm gonna have some people relatively mad about that, but
I
if
remember one of another YouTuber gamer that I know sent a picture. He was like, "I bet that no one else can say that they tucked their PS4 in for the night." And I was seeing a picture of him actually tucking his PS4 into bed. I was like, I can do the same thing with my Xbox, but it just wants to be played. It doesn't want to be tucked in. So
and it's not like a so again I told you like Xbox One's better. It's not like a clear cut answer either. Like each one does something different better. Um,
that, yeah.
I'm a big multiplayer gamer. Like I play a lot of multiplayer games.
That's one thing I don't like. I can't stand multiplayer games.
Well, Xbox Live does multiplayer worlds better than what PlayStation does.
Really?
You would probably be better off on a PlayStation though, as odd as that is to say. They do more story based games. So if you like single player experiences, that's where PlayStation really excels.
And I've also heard that was it now? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is The Last of Us PlayStation exclusive?
Yes.
Okay, you see, because that's a game that I've been meaning to play, and that's only for PlayStation.
Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War. Um, I mean, they've got some big exclusives, but when I start naming all of their exclusives, they're all single player. When I start naming Xbox's exclusives, they're all multiplayer.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I see the difference.
So like if I were to tell you all games you have to play on an Xbox, I'm gonna tell you Halo, I'm gonna tell you Gears of War, and
Mhm.
they have their single player components, but both those games are known for multiplayer.
Okay, that makes sense then, because yeah, I noticed there are more multiplayers on Xbox than I've seen for the reviews and for what is on PlayStation even.
Yes, and the easiest way to because PlayStation doesn't have a lot of exclusives on uh, single or multiplayer. They haven't even really made one outside of Killzone this generation that was just focused around multiplayer.
Ah, see that I did not know. Okay.
So I mean, it's that's why I say it's kind of like a hard. You can't really say one's better than the other. They're very targeted at who and what market they're catering to.
Also, speaking of consoles, did you hear that Google is coming out with their own console?
Was that confirmed? I thought that was still just a rumor.
I I did an article. I reviewed an article for it on my T Talk, and they made it sound pretty confirmed in the article that I read.
So I mean, technically, Google's had consoles, not that they've made. So I mean, like the Nvidia Shield, that was technically an Android console. The Ouya,
Yeah.
which failed terribly.
Yes. I was thinking it, but you said it.
So the other topics we were going to talk on about Nintendo was Breath of the Wild was the Dice Game of the Year winner.
I thought. Wait, it was. Wait,
Dice is like the big Game of the Year awards. I mean,
no, I
so
know. I didn't know that that's what won Game of the Year.
well, and Dice is like the industry one. So like that's the one that's most renowned in the industry if you win it.
Okay.
But I mean, Breath of the Wild won everyone's Game of the Year. I did.
See that's one game that people are asking me to play, and it's like I need to research that game more before I even touch it because I have not even come close to being well versed in that game whatsoever.
It's the greatest Zelda game ever made. I think
It
most Zelda fans would tell you that too.
well, Breath of, what was it? The first one that I ever played was the Wind Waker one, and I need to see that become a revamped version and become something because that was the first one that I was ever corrupted with in this Zelda world, and I'm gonna be completely honest here with the one that won the Dice Award. I'm not completely shocked because Zelda has a big fan base behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I did my own game awards and it won mine. That was by vote and my opinion as well. So
Okay,
because I
okay.
ran, I when I did my game awards, I posted up categories on Twitter with votes, and people were able to vote for it. By the way,
Uh,
again, if you don't follow me on Twitter, guys, you should go follow me on Twitter because I do stuff like this. And everyone voted, and then I read off the percentages that each game won by, and what else was in the categories and stuff. I mean, Zelda was a clean sweep.
okay, yeah, that doesn't surprise me then.
I mean, because I even gave my input, like if I felt another game should have won that category. I agreed with Zelda, hands down.
Okay. Yeah, because for me, honestly, like whenever I see a game that has as I'm going to say fan base again because it's purely the fan base. If it's either that or it's going to be Battlefront because Battlefront has an excessive amount of people who play that game.
See, yeah, I'll agree with you there. Zelda is it's worth the buy. It was the reason why I bought the Switch day of release.
Okay, that makes sense because if Zelda's going to be played on that kind of a console, besides the GameCube, which was the first one that I played it on, then yeah, it's totally worth it. But I would love to be able to see Zelda being played on a big 4K screen to see the full graphic resolution. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, but there's never been a 4. So that's the thing, though. Nintendo doesn't focus on that style of graphics.
Yeah.
They will never probably make a 4K console until I'd say maybe another two console generations. It's just not their primary focus.
Yeah, and while it's disappointing for me as someone who loves Nintendo games, I honestly respect how they want to keep not I was about to say integrity, but I wanted to, also say that the fact that, they want to keep what they're doing going unless they absolutely have to change it up.
One of my subscribers asked, "What other game did you get on release day?" For my Switch, I got 1-2 Switch and Zelda. That was it.
Very nice.
1-2 Switch you can skip, by the way. You don't
That's
want
what
to pick that up.
that's what people are telling me to do. Don't get once you switch.
It's fun if you have kids, or if you're immensely drunk.
Oh god.
That's about the only times.
You see, the thing is with that, I can watch people from afar. Honestly, if I were to ever see, like, I've seen my friends play 1-2 Switch and everything like that, but it seems like something that you play once and then I feel like you've played it all.
Mm, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different games on there, but there's no like visuals to the games.
Oh,
So like you're literally just looking at a screen that's flipping between certain things. You're supposed to look at the person you're playing with.
mhm.
So like there's a sword catching game. So you're like looking at each other and you have to clap your remote at the exact time that they're coming
Yep.
down. So I mean there is some cool stuff on there, but again, it's novelty.
Yes, yeah, it's kind of like what the Wii had with all of those little niche games.
I would say the Wii probably had some better niche games. I would like to see Wii Sports redone for the Switch though.
That would be awesome. That would actually be pretty cool because I played the hell out of the tennis for the Wii, and I would like to see that being brought back.
I don't see Mega Man will go well this year. Jonathan, they are adding the Mega Man collection to the Switch. So all of the original Mega Man games will be on the Switch here soon.
I don't know much about those games, so I'm not going to comment.
So I'm not a huge Mega Man fan. Um, they are very hard games, like insanely hard games. I would
I mean,
go ahead.
go ahead. The thing cut off. The Wi-Fi was just being a bit wonky.
If I were to tell you that there was a game that I ever thought was incredibly hard, it would be Mega Man.
Interesting. I'll have to look it up. Now that I hear that that's a hard game, I have to look it up.
It's a bit tricky. There's a lot of stuff coming at you at once.
The one game that I heard that was extraordinarily hard, but people are managing to get through it is Getting Over It. That Rage game that came out.
Getting over it.
Won by Bennett Foddy.
I haven't heard of it.
It's one where you are basically a like a guy in a cauldron and you have a pitch axe or whatever the thing. You have an axe of some sort and you are getting over obstacle after obstacle and it's a rage game. Like you will be one with the rage after you play that thing.
As Scott also said, have you played Cuphead?
I have played Cuphead and it's a weirdly disturbing yet adorable game. I love the style of it. The 2D graphics, the way they did it was really, really cool.
Did you find that hard?
No, I did not find that hard. And
Seriously?
I played it on my own. I had like a few troubles getting through a couple of levels, but it was one game that I wanted to just do on my own and just play through. And I managed to get what was it? Or was it one level? But it wasn't like that difficult of a game. Granted, I played it on easy. I'm always playing things on easy.
So you might do well at Mega Man then. I rage quit Cuphead on stream. Yeah,
You
it
see, the thing
was.
is, I was thinking it was that game as well as Ben and Ed. If you've heard of that one.
Uh-uh.
Ben and Ed is one of the biggest rage games I have ever played. I played it on my own like a year or so ago, and it was one where you play basically as a zombie, and you have to get from point A to like all these different jumps and everything. And after a while, it's like it starts off easy, it starts off really nice, but then you get to a certain point where the jumps become impossible, and at one point you have to get to one certain jump, and you jump, but you have to get there like several times because it keeps tricking you into falling down this one cavern. So when you finally get to that jump, it's basically the prize that you get is seeing the guy who created the game. You see his website. That's it.
Broku wants to know what we think of Fortnite.
Oh god, I love that game.
See,
I love
I can't get
Fortnite.
into Fortnite.
I love Fortnite. I've always loved those kind of, battle royale, those kinds of games. I absolutely love them. I
I
would stick
prefer
with.
PUBG.
I was about to say I used to play PUBG, but after I kind of got corrupted with Fortnite.
All right. I'd say I can't get into Fortnite. I've tried. I've given it my all. I don't like it that much.
The reason I'm so biased against Fortnite is because it was made by the same people who created Gears of War.
Okay.
So I love Gears of War. That's one of my
So
favorite
do I.
games.
It's one of my favorite franchises. I really wanted to like Fortnite because I love Epic Games. It
Mhm.
just didn't do it for me.
Interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, like, I feel like there's going to be a battle in the comments section, but that's okay too.
There probably will be. I will say this: Gears of War is one of the best bro shooters there is.
It really is. It has a good story, which a lot of shooters do not have good stories, but this one has a really epic story to it.
Well, and so that's the other thing too is like when a lot of people try to say, "Oh, Halo 5 wasn't that good. Halo 5 was terrible." Halo 5 was fan service for those who read the books.
Yeah, pretty much.
I read the books, by the way. So I loved Halo 5. But I get where a lot of people say, "Oh, the story wasn't fleshed out enough." And it's like it was if you read the books.
Exactly. Like that's the main thing. Like that's the same thing if you watch a movie and you see all the things that they put into a movie from the book. If you haven't read the book before the movie, it's not going to make any sense.
But I also read Star Wars books too. So it is what it is. If you like Star Wars books, you should all check out the Star Wars book Ahsoka, and you should actually buy the audiobook version on Google Play because it's like $14, and you get the digital copy of the book, you get the audiobook, and it's actually read by the girl who played Ahsoka in the Clone Wars TV show.
Interesting. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but
Really?
I don't like Star Wars at all.
Yeah, my wife doesn't either. My wife's a huge Harry Potter fan.
Slytherin over here.
She's all about Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw.
Oh.
Yeah, Ravenclaw.
You see, for me, I tried. I tried to give Star Wars a chance. I really did. But for me, it was just no, it just did not agree with me.
Yeah, we can't all have great sci-fi tastes as long as you're not a Star Trek fan. I can let it all
Oh my
go.
god. Star Trek, I tried getting into that too, but no Trekkie here.
Chris has been taunting me in the chat saying that he loved getting to watch me rage quit, and who the hell reads books?
Books are for nerds. No, actually, I love reading books.
I'm about as nerdy as it gets, so yeah, I read a lot.
The most recent read that I had that I absolutely loved was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That book and movie was amazing.
I've not seen or read either, but most of my books are tie-ins.
Oh, okay.
So I mostly read like sci-fi extended universe kind of stuff, like Halo, Star Wars.
You see, if you would like sci-fi, then you would like The Three Body Problem. It's a very good book so far. It's very long and it's like hardcore science fiction. It's very good.
But does it tie into anything?
It has, what is it? I think it's a 3-book trilogy, but no, I mean, like, it's one of those things where it's like it involves math and science and all that kind of stuff.
I try to only read and get involved with stuff that has like a mass following. So like if it has like movies, games, I try to get into stuff where it has like this rich extended universe, which is mostly what I read. I don't get me wrong,
Okay.
I used to love classic literature. I just don't really have a lot of time to sit down and read that kind of stuff anymore. So
It's understandable. That's one of the reasons why I kind of switched over to doing some of the Audible stuff because I was like, oh, I can read that. I can I can hear that whenever I'm driving or if I'm like going somewhere or anything like that. It just makes it easier.
well, I drive 35 minutes to work every day, so I listen to audiobooks now on my phone because Google Play added them. But I mean, Google Play's audiobooks are like cheap. Like we're talking real
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah, they really are.
Um,
Hashtag got that working from home lifestyle.
right. So next up was there was a recent debacle on Twitter. I do not remember the senator's name, but she is running for some kind of political office now, and I don't remember which seat she is running for or what particular part of office. She is a Democratic individual who is stating that video games are sexist.
I wish I could do like a face palm with the phone. Is that possible? Like, oh my god.
Just right into the face.
Like,
The lady who husband rear-ended me or boyfriend rear-ended me, she face palmed her phone from the airbag. Uh,
oh my god. Okay, I just had to say something that the feminists who are stating that games are anti-feminine or over sexist or whatever you want to say about it have not played a really great game ever. Like that's the thing. Like you see the game, for example, Hitman. There are a lot of sections that you can go into with the game Hitman that have women pole dancing, all that kind of stuff. If you shoot one of those women, your mission is over. Like you will be found out. Like it's really obvious that it's not like a sexist game. The same with Blood Rain. You see a giant monster that has green globular stuff coming out of her boobs. Like I mean, there's a lot of things that could be portrayed as overly sexist when in reality the graphic designer who did that kind of stuff wanted to come out with a creepy monster with the idea that he was going for. So I mean, a lot of feminists just need they just need to play a good game. They need to play the games that we're playing, and I feel like they haven't played half of the ones that they're kind of crying and whinging about.
Someone had to say Anita Sarkeesian in the comments too. So I'll say it this way. I don't feel video games are sexist in any way.
Yeah.
And I don't like any of the arguments that people make for this. 'Cause, like Anita Sarkeesian tried to say Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was sexist. People literally proved that she had never played the game. She also said Tomb Raider was sexist.
It's about a strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man, okay?
She said it was too violent. So it encouraged violence against women.
This is about a woman. Tomb Raider is about a woman who's going on a journey to fight for everything that she believes in from what her father has done, learning about history, doing all that kind of thing. Yeah, granted it was taken into a movie played by Angelina Jolie, one of, the most sex icon females in the world.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that that kind of video game is sexist in any way.
So she was actually specifically referring to the recent remake, the reboot of Tomb Raider. I don't know if you've played the newer ones or not, but
yeah, no, I played the newer ones and I've seen what is it, the trailer for the new movie that's coming out, and it's like in no ways that's sexist.
So I feel they did a lot to make Tomb Raider a lot more relatable to most people. But
Yeah.
the thing I've noticed is most feminists these days, it's just sort of like how we were talking about with politicians.
Mhm.
Um, it's they prey on you not understanding. It's like Anita
Yes.
Sarkeesian and the senator were both like, "Well, we need more women in the gaming industry," and that's great. That's
Yeah.
perfect. But you can't make someone want to go into a career field they don't want to be in.
Yeah.
It's not your responsibility to go, "Oh, well, you need to get in gaming so you can represent us there." If you don't enjoy it, don't get into it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually something that what was it? Casey Neistat had the business director of YouTube on his channel.
Mm-hmm.
And he specifically said we need more females in the community. Wasn't specifically pointing to gaming, but I was like, I feel like he was trying to motivate or push that kind of feminist agenda. I don't know if that might be the case still,
Oh, it is.
but yeah, probably is. But the thing is that like whenever people pull the feminist card or say, "Oh, we need more feminists, we need more women rather, sorry, in this field," then don't you know hate on the fact that a lot of women have a sexual appeal in video games. It's like you can't have one without the other. If you're going to have a feminist, if you're going to have a woman being a woman in a video game, don't say that it's a wrong thing and that it's anti-feminist.
Right. I mean, but even if you look at it like in this sense, so let's put it this way: your main guy character is always a ripped, muscular guy character. It's not like you're playing like a 350-pound dude just walking around in a video game.
Spoiler alert, that moment when what was it? Wesker just ripped everything off in Resident Evil 5. I mean, you
Hmm.
could consider that sexist.
I mean, it's weird because like the stuff that guys like it. I expect my dude to not look like he's morbidly obese and has diabetes. Like I don't need my dude to have to stop and take his insulin shot while we're in the middle of battle.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it's so weird because like guys don't complain about that as a standard, but
No.
then if you also think about it too, like you're gonna try to appeal to your main audience. So when you say, "Oh, there's not a lot of women main characters," well, there's also not as many women gamers as there are men. So you're always gonna try to appeal to your biggest audience.
Yeah, and I feel like she was trying to hit the very taboo subjects, to say the least, because she just wanted to appeal to her audience, get a rise out of them, whatever she wanted to do to be relevant.
Yeah, it's like BuzzFeed.
Sorry.
BuzzFeed does the same thing.
Oh, BuzzFeed always does it. I'm sorry, but BuzzFeed just no.
They used
They
to be
always,
funny.
it used to be, but now they're just overly trying too hard.
Yeah, they just bait everyone. But
Yeah.
I think it's funny. It's like you always hear about like the wage gap. So you'll hear like, oh, women make less than men, and it's funny because they take the entire here's what women make as a whole versus here's what men make as a whole. They're not
Right.
doing like a same job comparison because the same job comparison is normally even. It's just women tend to have different motivations than what men are motivated by.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of feminists are even complaining that why don't you have more women in the carpentry business? Why don't you women have more women in architecture? And it's like if you're asking a woman to do a lot of the heavy lifting, then yeah, but there has to be a very specific build, a very specific body type for a woman who can do that kind of stuff.
And is that
Um,
what that person wants to do?
yeah, exactly. And if the woman doesn't want to do that, or if she does have the body type for that and doesn't want to do that, then you can't force her to be in a field just to represent your twisted image.
Yeah. And I mean it a lot of it's always going to be motivations. What someone's motivated by, what they're interested in doing. It's nice to say we want more of this type in this industry, but it
Yeah.
it can be inviting for them. Like, yeah, by all means it should be anyone who wants to be in this industry is welcome to be in it, but it's not a well, you're a girl, so you need to go learn video game programming just so you can be like that might not be something that interests you.
Exactly, and that's one thing that I get a lot of, especially like I'll get messages from a lot of guys asking me, "Oh, you should play this game, or maybe you would be more suited for this kind of game, or maybe just do this because it might be too scary for you." And it's like I understand that if you're trying to protect my feelings, it's okay. I understand you. But the thing is that like, a lot of people try to sway me one way or one direction. And it's like you really have to have a mindset that tells you that they're trying to um I don't know if this is going to make sense. Like pander to what any other person is trying to say and take on their ideals and their information and put it on other people to see if they agree with it.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I think it's funny because like a lot of times the wider the wider group, like most women I know aren't sitting here complaining about these things,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have the vocal minority, and unfortunately the vocal minority is just so loud that it gets
Yeah,
interpreted as the majority. Um,
exactly.
I don't know if you follow Blair White at all.
No, I do not.
Okay, you should. She's really cool. She's actually a transgendered woman, and she actually touches on a lot of that stuff where it's like, I don't need you fighting for rights I didn't ask for.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. I completely agree with that because it's like you have to be an individual and stand up for what you believe in and what your rights are for yourself, not just because a group believes in it, but because you believe in it.
Well, and I honestly think it's like when you look at like Anita Sarkeesian or a lot of the third wave feminists, um, obviously they don't play a lot of games and they don't know a lot about it. So they're speaking on stuff that again they don't know much about. But if anything, I would say they're probably more sexist than the people they're accusing of being sexist.
Yeah, because a lot of females who are in the game industry don't care about the sexism thing. They just enjoy the games for what they are and they play them.
Yeah, I mean, a good example would also be like at my work. I work in retail, and a lot of times we'll have women customers who will ask like certain questions about certain electronics or products, and I've actually been told that I am mansplaining before.
Okay.
So I'm a man and I'm explaining something that you asked about, and you want to say that I'm mansplaining. Like, you just lost all logical argument the second you said that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's sad. It's like really sad to see, oh, we want equal rights, but I'm going to accuse you of.
Yeah, it's very contradictory and very ill-informed behavior, if I do say so myself.
Right. It'd be like if my wife started talking to me and I was like, you're woman splaining.
That would only work if you're joking around with her. If you actually meant it, that's where the issue comes in.
Well, I said, and my favorite humor is I was talking with DM gaming is anything that like pushes like triggers. I think is hilarious. Like Dave
Yes.
Chappelle's my favorite comedian, and a few months ago, I don't know if you and I were following each other at this point in time on Twitter, but I actually posted a picture of my daughter making a sandwich because I taught her and she's 4, and I was like, look, I domesticated her early.
Oh gosh, that must have gotten a lot of feedback.
Actually, no, it was all positive feedback. Most people found it funny. So,
Well, I mean, like I found that funny because it's like it's your kind of humor, but a lot of people would probably take the advantage of doing that, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're being a typical man." It's like, no, come on.
yeah, I mean, you saw me pin the post that one guy made when he added me to his list of dumbasses. I responded to him. I was like, hey, and he was like, oh, how dare you call me out publicly and use your audience to bash me? And it's like, dude, you added me to a list of dumbasses. All I did was respond back. And he's like, well, you didn't need to make this so public. And it's like, you made this public. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're acting like a child. And it's like, you expected no repercussions for what you did. You are
Mhm.
acting like the child.
Yep. Exactly.
And I think that's a huge problem these days is no one expects repercussions for their actions.
No, it's a pity me society full of people who believe that they're entitled to the rights and everything that they have.
Yep. Yep. No one wants to work for it. I deserve this. I deserve that.
Give me a trophy for something I didn't do. Yay.
I like participation trophies. There's a
Yeah.
couple of games that give you like trophies like just for starting them up.
Oh God. You see, I got that one whenever I started Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I
Oh.
exited out of the game because I wanted to just make sure that it worked, and it gave me a trophy for being a scaredy cat.
Okay, that's kind of funny though, but like there's some games that give it to you just for turning on the game and watching the open cutscene. They're like
Yeah.
getting started, and it's like I don't need your participation trophy. You get that shit out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to earn my trophy. All right, so on to the next topic before we get too sidetracked again. Toys R Us is closing 200 more stores.
It's
So
sad. That's my childhood right there.
I yeah, I mean I remember Jeffrey Giraffe vividly and where a kid can be a kid. But they already had announced that they were closing 180 stores. Now they're adding 200 more to that list.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
No
I remember
Toys R
reading.
Us in my area are closing. Just one Babies R Us. That's all they're closing.
You see, yeah, because there's one I think in Utica that's actually closing down very soon. So that's one of them, and there's one in New York. It's a smaller one, but I think it's in Manhattan, if I remember correctly.
Well,
I
you
think one
guys
of them
have
is closing down too.
stores everywhere.
Yeah,
You're like the shopping capital of the world.
and fashion capital, but who's counting?
Have you been to the Nintendo World Store?
I have. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's literally like the main reason. So my wife wants to go to BeautyCon really badly, and I want to go to the Nintendo World Store. So if we go to New York, it's gonna be because of that.
Yeah, I'm that kind of girl that likes the makeup, but I also like everything else that has to do with gaming. So give me gaming and that every day, and I'm set.
Saber said they're closing the one near him.
Oh, okay.
Saber said they're closing the one near him, and keep in mind, so this guy lives out in the middle of like a desert. I'm more
By the
shocked
way,
he
I do have
has
to
one.
say before I do anything, I'm so sorry to interrupt,
You're fine.
but my internet is about to be shut off in about like what 10 to 20 minutes. So because we always have internet shut off time here at the home,
Oh,
so I
okay.
want you know of that. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. We'll wrap this up. I only got two more topics. So I was sad about Toys R Us closing. Then Secrets of Mana remake is apparently getting terrible, terrible reviews.
I heard that. I don't know why. I haven't. Granted, I should say I haven't played any of it yet, but I don't know why it's getting bad reviews. Only
Have you
because
ever played the first one, the
I
original?
have not. I have
So
not.
it is one of the rarest and most praised games on the SNES, and it's actually even on the SNES Classic.
Okay, you see that I was not well versed in that, so I did not know.
It's my childhood, so I'm a bit older than you, so for me it's pretty common. Do you play Harvest Moon, or have you ever played Harvest Moon?
Again, I'm gonna sound like a complete noob, and I'm going to say no, I haven't.
No, you're not gonna sound like a noob. This is a very niche game. Most people haven't. It's a farming simulator, but it's like a Japanese farming simulator where you also have like role-playing elements.
Oh, okay.
So you like build
You see that.
relationships with people too.
So it's like a Japanese role playing version of The Sims in a way, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But more gamey. Like there's more of a you have direct control over your character. You're planting the crops, you're making the interactions with people.
See, I like that. That's a really smart way to go about it because I'm very this way that way about The Sims. But if that's the case with that game, that sounds pretty cool. I like that.
You should check out someone playing it or look it up. It's a pretty cool game. Well, they're pretty cool games. They've actually been around since the original PlayStation.
Oh, okay. Good to know
No,
that.
I
I did
take
not
that
know
back.
that.
Super Nintendo was the first one.
Okay. Okay. You see, I didn't know that. And your audience is probably like cringing because I don't know some of this stuff.
No, there's probably a huge chunk of my audience that has no idea what the hell Harvest Moon is. It's just one of those random games that I absolutely love, but most people don't play. But the creator of Harvest Moon is actually making a new game called Little Dragons Cafe, where you run a
Oh,
cafe.
okay. Well then, I didn't know that.
You should look it up. It's pretty cool. I think you would probably like Harvest Moon a lot. It's you ever have like those games that you go to when you just don't really want to have to like stress or worry, or just kind of relax?
Yeah, that's Outlast for me.
How the hell is that Outlast? That game would get me like on edge.
I love playing that game. Just to relax, I just play that game.
So just for you, one night I will stream Harvest Moon on my PlayStation because I have both of the PlayStation ones.
Okay, good, good. And I need to look that up because I might actually talk about that at a tea talk.
They're really cool games. See, has anyone in my chat even played Harvest Moon? I know the only person here that I know for sure is if Arrow Slayer is still in the chat. I know he's played it. Maybe not. I might be the only one on this one. But it is a really cool game. It's there's also another version of it that's made by the same people that's actually adds like some fighting and dungeon crawling elements to it. But there's no fighting in this game. Like it's a very calming game.
Okay, I'd have to check it out then because that sounds really interesting.
Okay, apparently there's a couple people that have played it. What's a Harvest Moon? Thank you, Hound. You're too young to know what it is, probably. Well, not too young. They've made a Harvest Moon game on the Super Nintendo, the N64, the original PlayStation, the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2, GameCube. The GameCube one's actually one of my favorites.
Okay,
If do you still have a GameCube?
I do, I do. I still kept it.
Okay, so look up It's a Wonderful Life.
So
Harvest
I've heard
Moon, A
of that
Wonderful
one.
Life.
Wait a second. Then maybe I have heard of it because I've heard it when it was just called A Wonderful Life. I didn't hear by Harvest Moon, but I know Wonderful Life.
So, normally, you might have heard someone call it A Wonderful Life,
Yeah,
but
I think I'd have heard someone just say, "Oh, it's a Wonderful Life," but I never heard them say Harvest Moon after that.
I think the girl version, because they made you play as a boy in that one.
Mm.
the
Oh,
girl version where you can play as a girl is called Another Wonderful Life, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, okay.
Later on, like when you get to the 3DS versions, there's the New Beginning, which is fantastic. That was the last great one they made before the developer and the publisher split ways, and the publisher kept the
Uh,
name, and the developer went over to another company, and that's the people who are making Little Dragon Cafe. So they're still making the games, but the mainline franchise with the actual name Harvest Moon is like getting like torn apart.
okay. You see, this part, this topic subject, this is all new for me. So I again, sorry if I sound like a
No, you're good.
noob.
All right, so we'll hop off. That was the last topic I actually had for the night. I don't like ending on big topics, so we talked about some Harvest Moon. So we'll hop off before her internet gets turned off. Maybe I will game stream tonight. But guys, again, this was Huggable Hipster. If you want to,
I hope you guys enjoyed the stream because I really enjoyed being on here so much. Like honestly, dude, thank you for having me on here.
oh, anytime. I plan on every Saturday, 8 p.m. I'm going to do this. Different streamers. Broku might be joining me here next week. So if you've never heard of Broku, you can check out Broku. He does a lot of Dragon Ball Z stuff. He's actually been a subscriber on my channel for a very, very long time.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Like,
awesome.
we're talking like when I started, long time. So,
Yeah. But yeah, just before I get going, I want to let you guys know where you can find me at again. I am Huggable Hipster on YouTube. I'm at Huggable Hipster on Twitter, and my Instagram is Huggable Hipstergram.
I really like the Huggable Hipstagram. I'm either Back Pocket Game Reviews everywhere or at Back Pocket Games. All of mine are linked though. So,
Yeah.
but guys,
Yeah.
I appreciated having you on. You enjoy the rest of your night. If you guys want to go check out her channel again, it's Huggable Hipster. Obviously, it's in the thumbnail and in the name of the chat. So,
Woo-hoo.
you enjoy the rest of your night.